The world of Ninjago is a truly wondrous place, full of these beautiful landscapes and environments that you can't help just want to jump face first into your TV screen to try and explore them, resulting in severe brain damage, but it's worth it if I can walk around this place. Ninjago is a wonderful place, but I think that our world ain't so bad in comparison. I mean, for starters, we don't have to deal with this guy every 5 years. Our planet is home to many beautiful countries across the globe, with dozens of incredible landmarks that humanity has created over the years, my personal favourite being this one. No other place in the world has as many recognisable landmarks than the good old United States of America, having some of the most iconic landmarks on the entire planet. The Washington Monument, the Grand Canyon, Niagara Falls, the Golden Gate Bridge, and one that I even had the great honour of visiting myself, Walmart. But truly the most iconic landmark born from the land of the Americas has got to be Mount Rushmore, a large mountain with a bunch of old guys carved into its stone, which if you ask me is pretty boring and a major snooze fest, and the only way I can see to make this thing more interesting is to turn it into Ninjago, either that or give them all silly mustaches. Mount Rushmore features the 4 faces of the most iconic American presidents, so why not replace these guys with 4 of the most iconic Ninjago characters? And I believe the best group of characters to choose from is of course the main characters of the entire show, the 6 Ninja. The easiest thing to do here for the Ninjas Mount Rushmore would be to simply give the original 4 Ninja all 4 of the slots, which isn't the worst idea. These 4 were the ones who started it all, so it would make sense that all 4 of them would be proudly displayed on the Ninjago Mount Rushmore. But to make the ultimate definitive Mount Rushmore for the Ninja, we're gonna have to factor in more than just the original 4 Ninja. Lloyd and Nia exist too, and it should be pretty obvious as to which one will be featured on this Mount Rushmore. That would of course obviously be Lloyd. There is no way he wasn't going to be included on this thing. He is the main character of the entire show after all, and is no doubt the most popular character out of the entirety of Ninjago. They've slapped this face onto pretty much every type of merchandise you can imagine. Our next ninja should also be a no-brainer. Being the original main character of the series before Lloyd showed up on the scene, we have the Master of Fire, Kai, who is most definitely on par with Lloyd in terms of popularity and being a massive staple within Ninjago itself. If it weren't for Kai, I genuinely don't think Ninjago would still be around today. Now for the next slot on the Mount Rushmore, I will admit that maybe my bias is showing as I've chosen my own favourite ninja, Jay, but I do think that Jay has good reason to be given a slot on this Ninjago themed landmark. Just like Kai, our dear blue ninja Jay is a part of the original 4 Ninja, so he's obviously going to be a very well known and recognisable popular character. Along with that, Jay has been in a lot of Ninjago episodes, and up until season 11 was the only ninja to appear in every single episode, so if that doesn't warrant getting a spot then I truly don't know what does. Jay is also the only ninja to canonically appear in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so that's another great point for his inclusion. For the final slot on this Mount Rushmore, I had a little bit of difficulty choosing which ninja to go for. I think all 3 of them have great arguments for which should be chosen, but in the end, I decided to give the final slot on this Ninja Mount Rushmore to Nia. I think Nia more than deserves her spot on this Mount Rushmore, with all of the development her character has gone through during the course of the show, not to mention that she brings some great female representation to what otherwise would be a major sausage fest. With Dragons Rising, I can only see Nia's popularity growing as she has been given a much more major role in the show as one of the main ninja from the original lineup to stick around. And so here's our Ninja Mount Rushmore, featuring Lloyd, Kai, Jay and Nia instead of a bunch of old guys that nobody cares about. With the ninja getting their very own Mount Rushmore, I feel like it's only fair to give another pretty popular group of Ninjago characters the very same treatment, that being the various villains we've gotten throughout Ninjago's many seasons. Let's start off with the most obvious of the 4, Lord Garmadon, being the very first and no doubt most iconic villain from the entire series, appearing in numerous seasons and even being the main villain of the dreaded Ninjago movie. All of this should, without a doubt, give Garmadon top billing for this Mount Rushmore. The next villain I believe should be an obvious inclusion for a Ninjago villain's Mount Rushmore is certainly on par with Garmadon in terms of being an iconic staple of Ninjago, and that will be the Golden Master himself, the Overlord. No matter what you think of the Overlord, whether you think he's been overused or should be in every single frame of the show, you can't deny that along with Garmadon, he's certainly the most iconic and important villain to Ninjago. He's been there since the very beginning with the first Ninjutsu Master and was the one who made the Great Devourer bite young Garmadon, thus creating the most recognizable villain to ever come from the series. This guy has been around for thousands of years, and is quite literally the source of all evil and darkness. He is probably the most villainous villain you can get. His laundry list of evil deeds is most definitely longer than any other villain. He plunged Ninjago into darkness, caused the awful love triangle in Rebooted, was responsible for the entirety of Crystallized, and surely at some point committed tax evasion. For the third villain, we have a certain character who's actually worked for the Overlord. No, not him either, and most definitely not them. Pythor joins the ranks of Ninjago's greatest villains on this Mount Rushmore, a character that's been a thorn in the ninja's plastic sides on multiple occasions, but has also lent a helping hand once. Pythor is another extremely popular and iconic Ninjago villain. Being the last of his tribe, Pythor is an incredibly well written character, first appearing in the very first season and showing up several times after that in both seasons and specials. He even got his very own book and creepypasta, which, let me tell you, not all Ninjago villains can say that. This unfortunately British sounding serpent is a very cunning and manipulative villain that was responsible for the massive threat that was unleashing the Great Devourer, which we would see would have a very large lasting impact. Now before I unveil the final villain I've chosen for this Mount Rushmore, I want to give some honourable mentions, the villains that were very close to making the cut but just couldn't make it for one reason or another. Moro was one of the villains that was extremely close to making it onto the Mount Rushmore. I shouldn't have to tell you that Moro is an incredibly popular character that is certainly worth all the attention he gets. Along with being the main antagonist in one of the best and most popular Ninjago seasons, Moro himself is just a really subtly written character that was even able to have a great redemption in possession that was then continued into Day of the Departed. Unfortunately, everyone's favourite emo Ghost got the cut simply because he hasn't had that many appearances compared to the other villains I was considering, really only being significant in Season 5 and Day of the Departed and not having that much of a lasting impact past those installments. The other villain I was tempted to let join the other three was the Mechanic, due to the fact that he has certainly climbed up the ranks in the Ninjago villain hierarchy. Originally introduced in humanity's greatest achievement, the Mechanic didn't really become a proper character until Prime Empire, being responsible for letting Unagami escape the gamer world and enter reality, finally being able to touch grass. Thanks to the recent wall-breaking seasons, the Mechanic has become a lot more popular and has really proven himself to be a very interesting and threatening character for the ninja, going from a pretty one-time villain to being one of the generals of the Overlord's army, even getting to share custody over a golden weapon. He's even had the chance to reappear in Dragon's Rising before any of the other pre-established villains, so he's definitely no longer at the bottom of the barrel in terms of villains. But I still did have to keep him off this Mount Rushmore, simply because I don't believe he is as iconic as the other three villains. If you showed someone a picture of the Mechanic, they would think you escaped a mental institution, but if you showed them a picture of Garmadon, they would still think you escaped a mental institution, but they would most likely recognize Garmadon. And now finally, onto the last villain I've chosen to join the three greats, someone who is heavily affected by Pythor and his actions. That's right, it's everyone's favourite hot topic white-haired girl, Harumi. Kinda funny how every villain here is connected in some way. Harumi is our most recent villain to join the list, being introduced in Season 8 and even getting to be a main antagonist in the season after with Season 9. 2 seasons in a row is certainly an impressive feat that shows how well written Harumi's character is. Well, used to be. Harumi has had a pretty tragic backstory, having her family be killed by the Great Devourer and then swearing revenge on the ninja, eventually leading to resurrecting one of Ninjago's greatest villains, Lord Garmadon. The lasting impact Harumi was able to have on Lloyd definitely can't be forgotten. Her psychological torturing and manipulation of the Green Ninja being so well done that it continued to affect Lloyd all the way up to Season 13, with him not trusting Vanya because of his involvement with Harumi. Before the end of Hunted, the writers were able to give Harumi a really well done redemption arc, somewhat redeeming herself for all of her wrongdoings by helping a family make it out alive, unlike her own, before accepting her fate and dying at the hands of her own resurrection of Garmadon. And then all of that was pretty much undone in Season 15, but I can tell you're tired of hearing about it every week, so I'll cut it short. But Harumi playing a key role in Season 15 no doubt makes her more worthy of being on this Mount Rushmore, or being sentenced to life in purgatory based on how much you like that season. You know, I've been having a lot of fun with this Mount Rushmore idea, so why don't we do one more, with this final one being for the seasons and specials of the show. Spoiler alert, none of the specials are included in the end, so just forget about them. The very first season of the show, Rise of the Snakes, surprises nobody as it claims a spot on this Mount Rushmore. there's no way this season wasn't going to be included, as it's the season that really started it all after the pilots, and laid pretty much all of the groundwork for the future of the Ninjago name, along with just having incredible episodes. Everything about this season is incredibly iconic, and I find myself revisiting this season the most out of all the rest, other than a certain other season of course. This next season was a bit of a difficult choice. I made myself choose between the two fantastic seasons from 2015, Tournament of Elements and Possession, but in the end I decided to give the spot to Season 4. Tournament of Elements, which as the name implies, features the Tournament of Elements that introduced us to the concept of more than just the ninja's elemental powers, showcasing an entire world of new, unique and interesting powers that we are still getting to see happening as of Dragon's Rising. So this season has definitely left a large mark on Ninjago, giving us some of Ninjago's best storytelling, and the lasting impact of the wider world of elemental powers certainly justifies this season's placement on this Mount Rushmore. Put your thinking caps on, as to get our next season, all we've got to do is multiply Season 4 by 2, giving us Season 8. I spent all my time obsessing over a LEGO show instead of studying. Season 8 came out after some pretty lackluster Ninjago projects, to say the least, and it definitely helped to claw the show out of the rut it had found itself in, being able to satisfy longtime fans, but also draw in a wider audience with a much more mature tone and story that would eventually lead to one of Ninjago's greatest storytelling achievements, the Oni trilogy. Sons of Garmadon is very important to how Ninjago is today. If it wasn't for how this season was handled, I think a lot of longtime fans would have dropped the show, and the Oni trilogy wouldn't have been as good as it is without the groundwork being established in Season 8. And now finally, the last season for this Ninjago Mount Rushmore might be a bit of a head scratcher for some of you, and that is Season 11. It's not as old or nearly as iconic as the other 3 seasons, but hear me out on this one. Season 11 is nowhere near as good or as popular as the other 3 seasons, but there's no denying that whether you like it or not, this season has had an extreme impact on Ninjago. It was the start of a new era for Ninjago after the end of the Masters of Spinjitzu series. With this season beginning a new era for our beloved Ninjago, a lot of changes were made, with the most notable of the changes being the switch from Will Film to Wild Brain, completely changing how Ninjago will look up until this day, with Wild Brain still animating Dragon's Rising. Along with an animation change, the length of Ninjago episodes went from 22 minutes each down to pretty much half, with Season 11 up until Season 15 having 11-minute long episodes, something you either hated or just kinda lived with for a while. Season 11 was also a very experimental season for Ninjago, with the episode lengths being changed and animation being changed. We also saw Ninjago use more styles of animation other than the generic 3D LEGO show animation style, that really helped this season to stand out against all the other Ninjago seasons. With this being our Ninjago season's Mount Rushmore, I think that's enough defacing of a historical landmark. Last thing I need right now is the American government knocking on my door. If you were to make your very own Ninjago Mount Rushmore, what choices would you make? Make sure to let me know in the comments below. LEGO has made an absolute killing out of Ninjago, and I think it's finally time for them to pay back us fans by investing a portion of that money into creating a Ninjago themed landmark somewhere in the world for us all to come together and visit. And so I propose that LEGO destroys the entirety of New Jersey and replaces it with a statue of the first Spinjitzu master.